Good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to A Little Good News. We're in the book of 1 Peter. Phone a friend, get them on board. I want to talk to as many people as I can from the book of 1 Peter, this little amazing epistle that Peter writes to encourage the church that is dealing with some imminent persecution, some anxieties. They've been scattered. And so he just wants to encourage them to persevere in their faith. And the last time we spoke from this book, Peter said, get into the Word, crave it. It's the way that God will accomplish what he wants in your life. And then he says, as you have come to him, speaking about our coming to Jesus. Most of you who watch A Little Good News can recall the time and place when you came to Jesus. It was a prayer, it was a reckoning, it was a day of reckoning for you. You realized it was by grace that you needed to be saved. Maybe you tried on your own and you were frustrated and you realized, only Jesus can wash me of my sin, and you dealt with him. So he says, as you have come to him, the living stone. Kind of reminds me of David Livingstone. It's kind of a good name. As you have come to him, the living stone. So now Peter is introducing a new theme here. He's talking about Jesus Christ, using a metaphor that would have been known to the Jewish audience. He says, you have come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God and precious to him. You also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For in it, the scripture says, and this is the reason why he refers to the stone. He says, the scripture says, see, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen and precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame. Now to you who believe, this stone is precious, but to those who do not believe, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, and a stone that causes people to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message, which is also what they were destined for. There's an awful lot in this, but what Peter is saying, that the prophet who said this anticipated that the Messiah would be like a stone in a quarry that builders rejected because they want a beautiful stone for the capstone of the building that they're building. And it's kind of like a Cinderella story, how Cinderella was rejected and no one really appreciated her, but there came a time when Prince Charming, or whatever the prince's name is, he discovered Cinderella and appreciated her real beauty. That theme comes from passages like this, I believe, and Jesus was like that. He was a stone who came into the quarry of the world. The world rejected him, didn't appreciate him. They ended up crucifying him. But the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. So Jesus, who was rejected by the world, has been exalted to the right hand of the Father. And the world now appreciates, at least those who know Jesus, and one day every knee will bow and recognize that the stone that was rejected, Jesus was rejected. He is the glorious Son of God. And Peter says, you have come to him. He's the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God and precious to him. And just like Jesus was that stone, he's in a sense saying that we're the same. We are like living stones. And in the metaphor that Peter gives, the stone that is Jesus was used to build a building. He's saying that we are stones, likewise, who are being built by God into a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God. So Peter is saying to his church, look, you may be scattered, but God has chosen you. The world doesn't appreciate you, but God has bestowed his love on you, and he's building this spiritual house, this holy priesthood. And I think it's important in this context to realize that although these people were scattered, feeling disconnected, just like we are at Grandview these days. We're kind of scattered. Peter is saying you need to know that you are part of a spiritual temple, a holy priesthood, a unity that is spiritual and not bound by brick and mortar. And when you're isolated like they were and scattered like they were, it meant everything to know that they were still a vital part of this work of God. And then he says, as a group, we're not only a spiritual house, but we're a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices that are acceptable to God. In other words, God is using us to serve him, to worship him. The world doesn't appreciate that. In fact, Peter goes on to say that the stone that the builders rejected becomes a stumbling stone for people. It causes them to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. There are some people who just don't get Jesus, and they don't get you. And when we share our worldview or our faith in this invisible God, they say, man, I just don't get that. You are so dumb. Why do you believe such stupid things? And they stumble. They're okay with a lot of Jesus' teaching, but when we assert that Jesus is the unique, only begotten Son of God, who died for sinners, they reject that. And Peter acknowledges that if you identify with that stone, you're going to be rejected too. But don't worry about that, because just as Jesus was exalted, we too will be exalted. So let's be about the work that we are to be called to do, to be offering spiritual sacrifices to God. Doesn't matter where we are, that's our calling. We've been destined for that. So I just want to encourage you today with that. God is building a spiritual house. Grandview is a spiritual house, and we are a unity. We are a family of God, and we have work to do before Jesus comes back that we need to be about. So be encouraged by that little good news today from 1 Peter chapter 2. Thanks for watching.